All right, welcome to Chem 60. So, this is the review unit. All of this should be review. If it's not feeling like review, please come and talk to me. But really, everything that we're going to do here, you should have learned in Chem 50. And so we're going to start, and we're going to start with section 0.1. And so I'm going to talk through this section, and then when I finish, you'll go to the learning assessment, and you'll go to the section also titled 0.1, and you'll just do these quick questions. So the way that these videos are designed is you learn a little bit, you try a little bit. So here we go. 0.1 is just the definition of chemistry. It's kind of good to know what you are learning about. So, chemistry is the study of matter, its properties, the changes that matter undergoes, and the energy associated with these changes. So, like this title is actually what we're going to be doing in Chem 60. We're going to be breaking apart all of the chemical reactions that happen and just kind of looking about why they happen and reaction mechanisms and all sorts of fun stuff. But what is matter? Matter is a general term used to describe all the components of the universe. It is formally defined as anything that has mass and occupies space. Super broad definition, aka matter is pretty much everything. When we're describing matter, we talk about its properties. So it's the characteristics that give matter a unique identity. Those can be physical properties, which are going to describe the appearance of the matter. Um, Things like odor, color, volume, state, density, melting point, boiling point. There's kind of a nice little chart over here, right? Color, length, volume, opacity, there's all sorts of words that we could use. And then there's the chemical properties. The chemical properties are the properties that allow matter to form new substances, right? In other words, to perform a reaction, to react with other things, which if things didn't react, there wouldn't be chemistry. These are things like the atomic number, the element group, the number of electrons it has, as well as its acidity, its reactivity, its flammability, and its toxicity. So those are kind of the broad definitions. So we've just got a quick question here, 6 of them, where I want you to kind of look at them and think, do you think this is a physical property or a chemical property? So I'm going to encourage you to pause the video and just read these 6 through and think about whether you determine that it's a chemical or a physical property. Okay, and then we'll go through the answers. So the first one is that gold, which is the element Au, right, is a yellowish color. Well, color is a physical property. Iron, Fe, can rust. Rusting is a chemical reaction where the property is being changed. So this is going to be a chemical property. C, gasoline is flammable. Well, there we go. Right underneath chemical properties, we can see flammability is a chemical property. The melting point. So, melting point, believe it or not, is a physical property because it's the point at which it's going to change a state. So, that is a physical property. Lead has a high density. Density is also a physical property. When we're talking about density, we're talking about how, what other word can I use, but dense it is, right? So, how compact or tightly packed matter is within a given volume. So, when we're talking about density, density is mass per volume, mass divided by volume. We're not going to do a review of that in this chapter, but it's good to see. So, it could be things like grams per liter. How many grams per liter is packed inside of that material or is in that material? And then the last one, gallium has 31 protons. Well, the fact that gallium has 31 protons is what determines that it is gallium. So gallium having 31 protons is a chemical property. All right, the next little bit here is just the difference between chemical and physical changes. So when matter is undergoing a change, it can either be a physical or a chemical change. A physical property is things like shape or phase, but the material itself on the chemical level is the same before as it is after. Now, we always say that physical changes are changes that can be undone. I would argue that it's pretty difficult to undo shredding of paper, but you could, right? We could take the paper and somehow get it to like bond back together. So it's a loose kind of trick in the definitions that we say that a physical change can be undone, whereas a chemical change cannot. You've actually like changed the properties of that matter to make it something new or something else. And so this change cannot theoretically be undone without another chemical reaction happening. So again, I have 6 questions here, and I want you to determine whether you think they are physical or chemical changes. Go for it. So I hope you pause the video. I forgot to say that. But let's look at the first one. So mercury is cooled until it becomes a solid. Well, that's like melting, right? It's just a phase change. And so this would be a physical change. B, copper is oxidizing to form a green color. Oxidation is kind of like that rusting idea, right? Where this oxygen is reacting with the copper and you're forming this green color, which could be like a copper oxide or something along those. I'm not, don't quote me on that one. Okay, but it's a chemical change. Acid rain corroding metal. Again, there's a chemical reaction that is happening, so it's a chemical change. Wood is burning. Is that a physical change or a chemical change? Now you could look up here at this picture, combustion, right? You are burning it. You are actually changing what it is. So it's going to be a chemical change. Whereas if you took wood and you just chopped it up into kindling, that is a physical change. And then butter melting onto popcorn is a physical change. It is just a change of state. Awesome. So that's your first learning. So we're done 0.1. So now you go to the learning assessment, and then there's always the practice questions that you do. So you're going to go and you are going to do the question 1, which is the definition of chemistry. It's just physical versus chemical change. And then you scroll all the way to the end of the assignment and you can check your answers. Please check your answers as you go. I really don't want you reinforcing wrong. All right, good luck.